What's up YouTube, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we finally have the ULTRA24 little guy racing parts chassis on the bench. And so as you can see here, it's already all painted up. Got most of my parts in black, and then I have my body panels in this hunter green color. So it's a little bit darker than the deadbolt that I have here. Let's see if we can compare it. A little bit darker, but we're gonna go with that this time. So along with the normal ULTRA24 chassis kit, I have the accessory kit. So it comes with whatever, I forget the name of that, but it comes with that. Got the radiator, got the fans over there, and I got a sticker sheet. And so now is the time to put everything together. I come over here to the website to ULTRA24 chassis, base kit, whatever, little guy racing parts. And so there aren't any instructions on this this little chassis. So it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge figuring it out, but it should be pretty easy. You can kind of enlarge the pictures and zoom in and zoom out and look at specific parts. And then we also have Instagram hashtags that we can look at and inspect some videos, some photos, and look at it into extra detail. And so I should probably take apart the deadbolt and have it ready to be swapped, but I'm kind of being weird about it. I'm just trying to inspect things, so I have a frame rail from a different build. And so when you're looking at these frame rails, you want to know where the front is. And so the front of the frame rail has lesser holes up here, so it has 3 holes on this side compared to the 2, 4, 6 on the rear. So when you start off, you definitely want to have your frame rails ready. You want to start lining up your holes. So this part right here is a shock tower. And so I was kind of confused at it at first, but I kind of inspected some photos on Instagram and I found out that this is how it should be going in the truck. It should be going, I believe, like this. So there's the bend. The bend is pointing backwards. You line it up and you get all your holes ready. So that's the first step I'm at right now. And then we'll talk more about 24 as we go. Alright, so I was able to get that front shock tower installed on the ULTRA24 chassis, and it's a little bit odd, but I'm going to see if I can kind of explain it to you guys because there's not much info about this thing on the internet. So as you can see right there at that angle, there is the 3D printed piece. So it's right here, it goes all the way down to here, and then here's the shock tower and then the support right here in the middle. So what I realized was that the frame rails, so luckily I have a stock pair of frame rails, so I'm just using that. I don't have to take apart this thing at the moment. Kind of keeping everything organized, just taking off one screw, putting it onto this one. But so here we are. So here's the frame rail. So the frame rail, okay, so the 3D printed part of the front shock tower goes inside the frame rail, and then the frame rail goes inside the chassis, if that makes sense. So here is, let's see if I can explain this to you guys. So this is very important. Like I said earlier, you gotta have the front side of the frame rails on the front side of the vehicle versus the back side. Just gotta, here's a lot more holes, that means it's the rear. Less holes means it's the front. So you line up the holes. They're pretty, this whole thing is designed very well. All the holes are pretty simple. You don't really need instructions, if you're honest. This is definitely an advanced procedure to do in the SCX24 game. But it's pretty simple. You line up the holes on the front shock tower with the holes on the frame. And what I did is I connected the shock tower and the frame together right here, this one screw right here. And then I realized that I can kind of move it into here and made sure the holes lined up. So then I unscrewed it, backed off, and then I put in this one right here, and then this one up front. And so I've gone through 6 screws. I'm just taking them off of the stock deadbolt. Luckily I haven't needed anything yet. And then up next, there's a screw. Where is it? I just saw it earlier. I don't know. Oh, this hole right here. So right here, there's a hole right here on the frame rail. If you can see, there's a hole in the frame rail right here. And so this is designed for the skid plate. And so I kind of brought it in here, and then I kind of just line up the holes. They're pretty perfect. I'll have to line up the holes and I'll get back to you guys. But everything's coming out pretty easily, honestly. Didn't expect it to be this easy. Just kind of hard to picture in your head, but once you got it, you kind of know what you're doing. So what I did was, at this point right here, I had some longer shock screws from a different, I don't know, from some part that were a little bit longer, and I installed those because they had to reach all the way through this thing, through the frame, and through the back side of the skid plate. So that was probably like the longest screw I've had to use so far, which worked pretty good. So you can tell they're a little bit different because they're chrome, whatever, stainless steel. And then back here is pretty simple, just had to line up the holes. Up next, we're gonna tackle, I believe this is the ESC tray. So this is gonna go in the rear because you can see the shock tower supports. And I guarantee you that these lines are gonna line up pretty darn good. So it's gonna be a pretty simple one, so let's get that done. All right, so I got the rear shock tower and ESC tray installed onto the chassis. I did end up not using, there's some mounting points right here. So there's a mounting point right here behind this cage right here by the door. There's also one on the other side. So if I was to do this again, I would install the rear shock tower support with the ESC tray first before I do the chassis or the front shock tower, just because I would be able to access this point right here if this cage was not here already. I could go through the whole entire process and take this all apart, but I'm kind of not feeling that. And this thing feels pretty supported back here, so I'm not too worried. I got, I got 8 of the 10 screws that needed to be in. There's 2 right here that I missed, like I said. But if I were to do this again, I'd start up here and move my way to the front of the truck. So now we're gonna look to converting all of the deadbolt stuff to the chassis. All right, so now I took off the frame rails from the deadbolt, and now I'm going to install the skid plate onto the new frame rails onto the new chassis. And so it's these 4 points right here on the skid plate. They're gonna line up with the 4 holes right there onto the chassis and on the frame. So it should be a pretty simple swap. It's just gonna be dealing with all this mess right here. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but we'll get it. All right, so there is a big portion of the swap done. I'm probably about an hour in, and I finally got most of the stuff onto the chassis. So now I have to worry about this servo because it's too short. So I do have an Emax servo on a different vehicle that I'll swap over. But I'm assuming the ESC tray is gonna fit back here on the truck. So I'm gonna have to rip off the double-sided tape and plant it in here. And then I have to worry about the battery and just figuring out that ESC and mounting up these shocks to these shock towers. All right, so here is everything together. It's kind of messy, but I'm still figuring out where things go. But check it out, got the new Emax servo in the truck. I needed that extra length to get it connected to the ESC back there. Got the battery in, that's not gonna be where it's at, but overall, we're moving, so that's good. We're on the right direction. Forward. So things that I've noticed is that the links up front are definitely too short, so the deadbolt links are gonna have to be replaced eventually, and the drive shaft. And then over here in the rear, it looks like they're too long. So it looks like it's deadbolt, no, it looks like it's C10 fronts and maybe like C10 rears. I don't know. I'm still figuring things out, but we're getting there. So luckily I have a bunch of spare parts that I can use and go through and have access to. All right, so here we are. I was able to get a battery extension to link up the battery in the ESC. So now I have everything tucked in where it's supposed to go. Now it's time to put on the panels. And so I've already kind of done that already. Got this rear panel in the very back. And so these screws are insanely small. Don't forget to order these, but they are super duper small. They're super hard to manage. Luckily, I found out a cool technique that I've been using. And so you grab the screw, you put it in your screwdriver, put it on your screwdriver, get it right, put it on your screwdriver, and then you kind of just work it like that. So you grab it, kind of stick it on your screwdriver, and then bam, now you're ready to kind of attack it and get the body panel onto the cage. So there's quite a bit of body panels. I'm not really gonna guide you through the process. It's pretty simple. Paint both sides, and then make sure to remember to order the screws because you're gonna need them. So I'm gonna get that knocked out, and then we're gonna start adjusting the suspension and the tires and everything like that. So let's go. So here is the ULTRA24 with a couple of the body panels on. And so I don't have the rear quarter panels on because once you put them on, you kind of aren't able to access your shock at the shock tower. And I don't plan on using these shocks for this build because, I don't know, it feels a lot different than it did on the double. Like there's a lot more binding. Just maybe the angles, I guess, are a little bit different. So we're going to switch them out to the hot racing shocks. But if you do put on this panel, having access to shock tower is a little bit hard. So definitely keep that in mind. So I'm going to swap those out and then we'll get to it. Alrighty, YouTube, so it's been about 3 hours. I have all the body panels on. I have the accessory thing in the back on. I have the fans, this cap. I'm missing the tops of the batteries because I don't have red paint. So I have to paint those. One thing that I really noticed is that these links are not correct. This is probably built for a C10 or a Jeep, and I have a deadbolt, so I'm definitely gonna have to go out and get some new links because this is not the vibe. And these tires are too small, so we're gonna swap them out for the Little Guy Racing Parts choking MTs, which I have here for the scythe build, but that's kind of going to nowhere right now, so we're going to swap it over, get some bigger tires on this thing, and see how it looks. Alright, so I have the choking MTs with the Mofo premium deep dish wheels, and it's looking a lot better now compared to those super small, I forget the name of those RC4 drive tires, but we're actually getting somewhere. So I still need to fix these links. So as you can see, dead bolt fronts are really short. You can see the top of the shock here and how it's angled backwards. And then you can see how it's angled backwards here on the rear too. So I'm thinking C10 fronts, and I want to say C10 rears, but I'm not too sure yet. So we're gonna look into that now. All right, so I'm almost done with everything, like 90% of the way there. I swapped over the wheels and tires. I have the suspension links, the old brass links I got from my ULTRA24 build. Now they're plastic. It looks like this chassis was built for a C10 or a Jeep. I thought the whole time it was built for a dead bolt, so I had a bunch of dead bolt stuff, but I was able to swap over all my C10 stuff, so it looks pretty good. Some things I do need to change are the steering link up front, and then I need to paint those battery tops red. But overall, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. I'm getting some binding over here up front with the shocks. Maybe it's still not set up right. You need to pick a different hole. But out here in the back, it's a lot better. So I'm liking that. But overall, setting this thing up was really fun. I'm really excited for crawling tomorrow. Alrighty, so here is the ULTRA24 chassis completely put together. I've pretty much done everything that I wanted to on this build at this point. All the body panels are on, all the parts are painted. I swapped out the links for these brass RC Addiction 19 links that I had on my ULTRA4 build. Now it has the deadbolt links. So now my shock towers are lined up with my axles as close as I could get them. I also added the choking MTs from the scythe build, and I have the premium deep dish Mofo RC wheels on there as well. What else can we talk about this build? Oh, I also added the Mofo RC flex blades back here in the rear. Those give it a little bit more flex, of course. What else have I done? Oh, I added the Emax servo, took it off of the scythe build as well, swapped it over. Overall, I'm really liking this build. I'm liking how it's coming out so far. Definitely would recommend getting an ULTRA24 chassis. It's super fun to put together. Really, I think I'm a 50-50 kind of guy. I like to put them together and then I like to go out and crawl with them. I'm 50-50 on that. Oh, also I swapped out the shocks. I now have these stock shocks with these spring spacers. I just feel like the stock shocks are really the best option for me at this point. I really do like them over any other shock. I've used the long travel hot racing shocks, these Endura internal spring shocks, the Endura double barrels, and honestly, I like the stock ones the most. I don't know, just their performance, their functionality. They might not look the coolest, but they are definitely the best to perform with. So I also did that. What else? I don't know, I got the ESC back here. It's kind of hard to turn it on and off. If you can see right here, it's right behind this quarter panel. But if you get in there with a pen or pencil, you'll be able to get there. Oh, I also painted the tops of these batteries. I painted like a blue color. Didn't have any red. So a lot of people had red, so I was like, oh, I'll just paint them blue. Why not? It's baby blue. But yeah, I'm really liking this. And then also with this this thing right here, you can pop off his body. I do it right. I don't want to break it. How do I do it? Yeah, you can pop off this front body panel right here. Huh. Oh, there you go. Pop it off really easily. I'm assuming this section right here is for a battery. I'm not too sure. You can fit one in if you put it in a weird way. Let's see if we can do it. Pull it out. There you go, so the battery fits in right there. And then you kind of get this panel. Pop it in place, and that should improve your performance with all the weight up front. So that's pretty cool, I didn't even realize that. But yeah, overall I'm pretty excited for this build. Definitely have a lot more mods to come with it, of course. So follow along with the playlist, and I'll see you guys in the next video.